Hello and welcome. In this session, we are going to learn how to migrate an on-premises MySQL database to RDS MySQL. So I have a virtual machine ready, which is having the Linux, and we are going to install MySQL on it. I'll be using root for the demo purpose, and we are not going to use the MySQL OS user just for this demo. Otherwise, you should have been using some service account wherein MySQL would be running. So to start off with, we have this virtual machine. We are going to install MySQL 8.0 binaries. Then we are going to import some sample database on it, and then finally we are going to migrate it to MySQL RDS. So that will be a free tier version wherein we are going to import it. So let's start the migration. Before that, let's prepare the server. So I'm just ensuring that I do have the internet access on it, and to start I'm going to disable any kind of firewall and removing the SE Linux. So if you see that SE Linux, it is disabled, and I'm just checking if I have the firewall which is removed or not. So firewall is also disabled. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to uh, start the installation. So we are going to download and install MySQL yum repository to Linux repository. So we are going to use this command, which is wget. I'm just clearing it up. And this is the IP address of my server, which is 192.168.37.128. And using wget, we are getting this. Just press enter. Okay, this is done. Then we are going to install MySQL 8.0 Community Enterprise Edition. This is going to check everything. So I'll say yes. All right. Now we are going to say yum repo list, and then it is going to display what is there in the repository. I think there is some sort of issue connecting. Okay. I can see the details are available. And finally, we are going to install the MySQL community client and the server. So let's clean up the screen, and yes. Okay, let's try running MySQL community server. We are going to download it. This is going to take time. So this is all right. So you can see here MySQL community lib compat MySQL community server, which is 8.0. So just I'll say yes. And when it is happening in the background, when this is happening, what we will do, we'll create an RDS instance. So I'm in AWS logged in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an RDS instance so that we can save some time. So let's go ahead and create an RDS instance for MySQL. This is going to take 4 to 5 minutes. So in the meantime, we will just initiate the creation, and then we will go back to the MySQL server where we are doing this stuff on premises. So let's select MySQL, standard create, and here we will go with MySQL. We are going with the free tier because my data size is very less, and I don't want to spend anything on this. So all right, let me check the volume. Okay, that's fine. So I have selected MySQL, and I have selected the version, which is the latest version 8.203.25, and this free tier. There's free tier. It's a little bit slow. And my database name, which is, I'll say this is RDS MySQL. Okay. And then I'm going to give the password for the admin user. I'll keep it very simple for this demo purpose. And after the demo, I'm going to delete it. And then it is going to select the DB instance class automatically. We are not going to go for the storage auto scaling, which is a feature over here. We are going with the default to VPC. And when we are talking about the accessibility, though it is not recommended, but just for demo purpose, we are going to allow the public access. And then what we are going to do is we are going with the default VPC security group, and availability is on is default one. In additional configuration, we are not going giving anything. Authentication mode is password, and then we will say, so everything we are keeping default, the security group and the VPC as well. So we'll just say create database. This is being created. This is going to take its own time, 4 to 5 minutes. In the meantime, we'll go back and we will continue the installation. So it's downloading the required files for MySQL 8.0. Once it is done, we will start the MySQL, and then we will change the root user password, and the other things will be taken care. Okay, this is happening. This is going to take time. In the meantime, we will check. This is going to take time. So there are 23 dependable binaries which it is going to install. I'll mute it for a moment, and then the installation is still going on. It seems the download speed is slow, so it may take time. Uh, there's nothing which can be done as of now. We will have to continue waiting. Apology for that. It's on 23, so okay, this is done. Now let's check the status of MySQL. Let's clear up the screen and then we will say, okay, you can say the status is enabled. It's already started. Okay, the status is inactive or dead, so we are going to start it. Once it is started, we will check the status, then we are going to change the root password, and then we will import some sample data. Okay, let's check the status. Now you can see status is active and running. And now find the root password. So when you do the installation for the first time on Linux based system, the password will be there in varlog mysql d.log. So just grab and you will be able to see the password. Temporary password is this one. So what we will do is we will change the MySQL uh, login password. So just execute this MySQL secure installation. Enter password for root user. So this is our password. New password. Let's say we are giving the new password as this one. Enter new password. We are entering. So change the password for the user root. So we will say yes. New password. Let's feed in again. Entering the root password again. Okay, do you wish to continue with the password provided? Yes or no? We'll say yes. Remove anonymous users. Just say yes. Disallow root login remotely. We will say yes, and then we will enable it again. Remove test databases. We will say yes. And reload table privileges now. Just say yes. And it's all done. The next step we are going to do is we have a backup which is there in this location, and we are going to import it. And how we are going to import it using this command. So these are the simple tables which are available, which has been backed up from other system. And just enter the password. This will populate it. This is getting populated. So this all information will be available over there, so you can use all of them. Once it is done, we will import this one as well, and then we will see the rest of them. Okay, let's see how is our it is successfully created. So we are jumping in between the two on-premises server and the RDS MySQL. And this is the security group. We will see how it looks because we have created a default one. And the only thing for this demo purpose, we need to check out the security group, the inbound rule. We need to make sure that the IP address of my system should be captured over there. Still it is loading. So in the inbound rule, I have to mention the IP address of my system because I want to reach from my system only. Okay, I'll show you what all it is. So if you added inbound rule, it has automatically picked up my IP address, the IP address of my system. So what it is saying is in the inbound rule, use TCP port number 3306, and this is the IP from where the connection will be coming. This is my system. And we can try to connect to this as well. So how do we connect? Let's go back, cancel. Let's go back to RDS. And what we will do is we will try to connect through the MySQL Workbench to this RDS instance. Since you do not have SSH access, so you cannot check it unless or until you use the IP address, username, port, and the password. That's the way you are going to connect with the RDS MySQL instance. Let's see how the installation. Okay, this is done. One of the table is imported. Sorry, the database is imported. Now let's do it for the partition table as well. So it is MySQL-u, which is the username. Then we are going to give the password. Password for the on-premises, we are going to mention this, which we have. So this is going to take few more minutes because we wanted to pump some data. And now let's see our RDS instance. We are going to connect RDS instance with our MySQL Workbench. Just click on the instance which you have created, and we will take out some of the information which is required for the connection. So what all information is required? One is the endpoint. So just copy the endpoint. Copy. This is my MySQL Workbench. We'll go to databases. We'll say connect to database, and then we will mention the host name, which is the endpoint in this case. Okay. The user which is created by default is the admin user, and we will mention the password of the admin user. Let me save it in a vault just for this demo, and we will say OK. Opening SQL editor, and we are successfully able to connect with our RDS instance. So you can see here MySQL at this is the details. So we are connected. You can see the server status. You can see this is how it looks in RDS. Base directory is RDS bin, then you have RDS data, and disk is like this. InnoDB directory, plugins, temp. You cannot control those file systems, so that's it. It's visible over here. You do not have the SSH access on it. Okay, the import is done. Let's go back to. We will import some more tables from the Sakila. So I have the dump already available. Let's import that as well. We are just trying to pump some data inside the on-premises MySQL database. Like it is. Okay, let me try this one. Let's try to two databases we have already imported. So if this works, it is fine. Otherwise, we'll continue with those. Okay, this is also done. Now what we are going to do is, which is the next section, wherein we will say we wanted to enable remote connection to MySQL instance, which is running on MySQL. So what we will do is we will add it the configuration file, and we will add the IP address of the server. So let's find out the IP address. The IP address is this one. Just say vi and we have to add this IP address. By default, uh, this is not going to allow the remote connection. To allow the remote connection, we have to mention the IP address in this. So we will say, so this line you have to mention bind address equal to the IP address of your system. This you will add in your mysql.conf. This is mandatory. So let's add this, and we will put this in mysql.conf. This is the bind address. Now restart your MySQL service, and then we will check out whether it is reflecting or not. Then we will try to connect uh, systemctl. Let's check the status. Restart systemctl restart mysqld, and then we will check the status, and then we will check whether bind variable bind address is visible or not. Once it is visible, we'll connect, and that's it. This is running. Now what we will do is we are going to connect, we are going to check whether everything is working fine or not. So the IP address is this one, and we are going to use this command. And let's feed in the password which we had given earlier, which is MySQL at 1234. Why this step is required? This is just to ensure that using the IP address of the server we are able to connect. All right, so the only problem is if you just remove the IP address also, this is going to work. Let's feed in the password. The only problem is this problem is none. I would not say this is a problem. This is the behavior. You need to bind your user ID with the IP address. That's why it is not working. So let's me feed in the password. So you can see show databases, and it will show you the list of the databases which are available over here. So this is my source, and my target is, so we will try to connect the target from here as well. How we are going to connect the target, let's see that as well. We need to fetch out the information, and we will put it in the same way, the way it is here. So this is my source system. From source system, we are trying to connect the target, which is RDS. So I'm saying MySQL -u user, which is created as admin user, and -h is the host name or the endpoint, and then we are prompting for the password. So we just need to feed in the correct password. Show databases. So we are connected to the target environment as well. Now what we are going to do is, either you use MySQL Workbench to do this, or we can directly import from here as well. If you wanted to import, which we have already a data available, so instead of taking a backup, I'm going to use the same, which is available as of now. So what we will say is, this complete location, and we will mention the okay, let me see where we have the backup. We have the backup over here. We are not going to rerun the backup, then we are going to restore, since we already have a backup which we have restored in source. The same backup we are going to import in the target as well. So one is employee.sql and another is employee partition.sql. So we are saying MySQL-u admin -h is the host name. This is a remote target host name. And let me cross verify. It is RDS MySQL.cz. Okay, this is correct. And just enter the password. This is going to import MySQL databases on my source to target. And we are using the command line using MySQL dump and MySQL import utility. Since it is a small database, it is not going to take time. There may be the fastest way wherein we will move this from source to target VPC environment in an EC2 instance, and from there it can be imported in a faster way. Once it is done, we will import the another table. Let's give this one. So we are waiting for the first one to get imported, then we will start the next one. Please remember you are importing into RDS instance and you have a connectivity between source and target. We can use MySQL Workbench as well. Let's see the dashboard. This is the dashboard while import is happening. You can see incoming network traffic, which is just 1 MB per second because this is transferring over the network. This all insert is going on. You can see once it is imported, the tables over here. Okay, this is done. Now in the similar way, you do it for the other partition table. The password I'm giving wrong. Okay, this has started again. We wanted to see the connection of our source as well over here. So what we will do is we'll go to database. We'll say, okay, before that we should have a user who should be able to connect from here. So we'll create a duplicate of tab of this. Okay, this is done. And we will create a user on the source who can so that you can connect from MySQL Workbench. While making some changes at the final stage, we removed the remote access of root user. So either you restore that, otherwise you make some more changes. So let's log into MySQL as root user. Either we create another admin user, which is good. Instead of using the root, we should have some other user. So we will go and create that. So what we are saying create a user admin who should be able to connect from anywhere, and we are giving some password, and then we are granting all privileges on all the database on the MySQL server. So let's do it. It is done. And then we are granting all privileges. I think that's already done. This is already done. And then what we will do, or you can make sure for root as well if you wanted to do, otherwise that's not a best practice. If you wanted to do, this is what you have to do. You have to say update mysql.user set host equal to %. That means your root user can access from any host to your system. Then finally flush the privileges. Now you should be able to connect from the MySQL Workbench. While the import is still going on, we'll make a new connection. We'll say database, connect to database, and we'll mention the host name. And the host name is it's always advisable to use the host name or the endpoints. Just for this demo purpose, we are doing this. We have created an admin user on the source environment as well. And the password which we have given is this one. We are storing in the vault and saying OK. We are connected. We could have used the migration wizard as well over here if you wanted. But since this is a very small database, we just used the way we should have. Okay, so everything is done. We'll try to connect. So MySQL -u admin -h. This is the RDS instance, and then it will prompt for the password. Show databases. You can see you have the employees database which is imported in target RDS instance. Let's see the source as well. We haven't imported the Sakila into the target, but we just imported the employees. If you want, you can import the Sakila as well in the target, but we just imported one of the database which is employees. Let me see, where is the Sakila? I'm not sure if this is something which I have imported earlier, this is correct data or not, but let's try if this gets imported. Okay, so we need to make some changes. So I'm not going to do it right away. And we basically thought for only one database which is being done. So our migration is successful. We could have used in another video, we will see how do we do it using the migration wizard. So this is the migration wizard. We will say start migration, and my source environment is, okay, I need to create the if config. Let me show you some basic details if we can do it right away. Otherwise, in another uh, session, we will do that. User is root and password. We are doing it from the source. We are connecting to the source. Test connection. Connection is successful. Just say next. Then we are coming to the target. Target environment is this one. And let's give the detail of the target environment, which is, we created the connection details earlier, so it is picking up from there. And just we have added the password. Let's say test the connection. Okay, let me see if this is the correct. Oh, this is not correct. The host name is something else. RDS MySQL. Not sure if I'm, okay, this is wrong. The endpoint which I had given was wrong. And test the connection. Connection is successful. Just say next. So we are connected through the target as well now. And using this migration wizard, you can transfer your tables, right? The Sakila, I'm not sure if it is imported. Sakila was not important because there are some prerequisites which is not what. If you wanted to migrate this one as well, so you can just say Sakila, I wanted to migrate this from source to target. Just say next, and it will show if there are some dependencies. And just say next. Migrate table objects, views, and routines. So you can see how simple it is when you are doing it through the migration wizard. So there is one warning, so you can see what it is. And this will display out. So the script is created. So keep schema if they already exist. Objects that already exist will not be recreated or updated. So either you drop it and then do it. The schema will be dropped in the target server and all the existing data will be lost. So you just say yes, since this is dev environment, but we should know what we are doing. It's very simple when you do it using the uh, migration wizard. We are not checking the details because in another session we will see how to do it using the migration wizard. It's really very handy and useful when a small amount of data is to be migrated from source to the target on RDS MySQL instance. You'll just say next and we will stop it over here. And it will show you the status. All right, just a recap of what we had done is we migrated one of the on-premises MySQL database to RDS MySQL. On the source side, we disabled the SE Linux and firewall. For our demo environment, we installed MySQL 8.0 Community Edition, and we um, we started the instance, then we changed the MySQL default root user password to something else, then we imported some data, and what we did finally is we created one instance of RDS. Since we had already a backup on the source environment, we migrated it to the target. So when we created the RDS instance, we ensured that it should be publicly accessible for this demo setup. Otherwise, in VPC, you have to ensure that you log into the VPC, you transfer over the data over there, and then you import it using the native tool, which is the required way. The migration to RDS MySQL is not only through this, but this is one of the way. We could have used DMS as other way, but this is a small environment, a small amount of data, so we used this way. And then on the source side, we created since we created the root who should be able to log in from the local host itself. We enabled the access from remote as well for the MySQL instance, and then we tried accessing MySQL from the source environment as well. So everything we were able to access it from the source environment uh, using the user ID and the password. We ensured that uh, the uh, the incoming this thing the let me show you out what is that VPC in the security group. Your incoming connection is supposed to come from my IP, so that has worked. So we also try to see if there is a migration wizard which could be used, so that's also working, and that was useful to us. I conclude it over here, and I'll say this is the basic the way of migrating on-premises MySQL database to RDS MySQL instance. In another session, we will see completely using the migration wizard, and we will see how long it is going to take